Hi guys, Mrs. Delisin here. Welcome to another lesson of Algebra 2. Today's lesson is called Function Composition. Learning objectives, I will learn how to find the composition of two or more functions at a given value. I will learn how to find the composition of two functions algebraically in terms of x. A new function h of x is formed by composing the function f of x with the function g of x, where g is the inside function. This is typically shown as h of x equals, how do we read this one? F of g of x. So can we do that again? H of x is equal to f of g of x. It could also be written in a weird kind of way. You see how that looks like a degree, but it's not a degree. This could also be written like this, but it means the same. It's just written differently. But you read it the same way. H of x is equal to f of g of x. Sometimes, if the problem is written this way, I usually rewrite that to make it this way. Yeah, just to avoid confusion and stuff. Okay, let's start. Consider the functions f of x is given graphically. G of x is given as a chart. H of x is given as an equation. 2x plus 3. The problem here is that we're looking at three different functions because we have function f given in the graph. Given in the graph. We have h of x given in an equation. And then we also have g of x, which is given in the table or in the chart. So when I say f of x, right away you look in the middle. When I say g of x, you look at the one on the right, the chart. So it's a little bit confusing. But hopefully, after we go over every single thing in detail, it wouldn't be as difficult. Okay, let's start. I'm not going to be answering any questions yet on A, B, and C. Let's just start interpreting the chart, g of x. When I say g of negative 3, what does that mean? Does that mean that if the x is negative 3, what's the y? So when you say g of negative 3, meaning the x is given, which is negative 3, what would be the y equivalent of that? So that would be negative 4. Right? So g of negative 3 is just simply negative 4. When I say g of 0, it's just simply a negative 1. Because when the x in the function g, if the x is 0, what's the y? Negative 1. G of 1, meaning if in the function g, if the x is 1, what's the y? 0. Right? As easy as that. Okay? Now, what if we have it in f? F, let's just say f of negative 1. Meaning, can you find a point in the graph that has an x value of a negative 1? So, x value of negative 1, I think this is negative 1 here. Can you find an equivalent or a point that has an x equals negative 1? And that's the point that has a negative 1. But what's the y of that? It's a positive 4. So when you say f of negative 1, that means it's a 4. The y is 4. That makes sense? If f of 1, can you find a point that has an x equals to 1? Right here. What's the y of that point? 0. Okay, lastly, f of negative 2. Find a point in the graph that has an x equals negative 2. This is the only point here that has an x equals negative 2. Find the corresponding point. And that is a y of 3. So f of negative 2 is 3. That makes sense? Now, let's go h. H of 1. So h of 1 means 2 times 1 plus 3. So 2 plus 3, that means 5. If I say h of 0, that means 2 times 0 plus 3, 0 plus 3. So h of 0 is 3. Okay? I'm hoping that as we dive in with the problem, it's easier for you to understand when I say G of, you look at the chart. F of, you look at the graph. H of, you look at the equation. So, let's delete all of this and let's dive into the question. I have here F of G of negative 1. F of G of negative 1. When we solve this problem, we solve the inside first. So, let us focus on G of negative 1. What is G of negative 1? So, am I looking at the equation? Am I looking at the graph or the table? So, of course, because we're looking at the function G, we're looking at the table. In the function G, if the x is negative 1, the y is negative 2. So the answer to that is negative 2. So we're left with f of negative 2. Now, f of negative 2. Am I looking at f of negative 2? Am I looking at the h, the equation, the graph, or the chart? But of course, I'm talking about f, so I'm looking at the chart. The graph. F of negative 2 means that if the x is negative 2, right here, where is the corresponding point? Right here. So this is negative 2. What's the y of that point? Is 3. So the final answer is 3. So f of G of negative 1 is 3. Moving on. Remember, we can write this as G of 2. Okay, we'll solve the inside function first. Let's change the color. What is G of 2? So because we're talking about G of 2, we're looking at the table. So G of 2 is a 4. So now we are finding, now we're finding H of 4. Right? Because we already figured that G of 2 is just 4. Technically, what happens is G of 2, and then this one became a 4, so it became H of 4. So what is H of 4? So we're now looking at the equation H of 4. So 2 times 4 plus 3, 8 plus 3 is 11. So our final answer is 11. Okay, next problem is, that's a lot. It's G of, how do we read that? G of H of F of 1. So there are 3 functions in here. So let's start with the inside function, which is F of 1. Okay. I can't put it down because I have no space. What is F of 1? So this is G of H of, we don't know. So let's start with F of 1. Because I'm talking about F, meaning if, look for a point that has an x equals to 1. And what's the y of that point? The y of that point is 0. Right? We're talking about this point. So f of 1 is 0. So we are going to do G of H of F of 1. There. And then we now know that f of 1 is 0. So this is now going to H of 0. So G of, what is H of 0? H of 0 is equal to, because we're talking about H, we're talking about the formula here. So this is 2 times 0 plus 3. 2 times 0 is 0. So that's 0 plus 3, that's a 3. So we're talking about H of 0 is 3. And finally, what is G of 3? And G of 3 is, according to the table, It's a negative 3. So our final answer is negative 3. Whew, that's a lot, right? I'm hoping that that is not confusing. Okay, of course you can do examples in your homework. Now, sometimes we also have an equation inside an equation. So technically, we're not going to have a graph, we're not going to have table. We're now looking at equation inside an equation. And let's see. This is, every time I see that, I always be right. So this is f of g of x. So it's not just a value, yeah. It's not just a single digit that, okay, g of 2, which is g of 2, right? And then it gives you another single digit or a number. But here, we're actually putting in a function. So, what is g of x? G of x is, oh wait, let's change the color for that one. Okay, so f of x is 2x plus 1. And then we have a g of x, which is x squared minus 4x plus 2. So, what I would do is I will plug in over here. I would plug in, sorry, there you go. I was trying to change the color. I'm going to change that g of x. And the equivalent of g of x is x squared minus 4x plus 2. So what does that mean? I think that means that you are putting in x squared minus 4x plus 2 inside the f. Does that make sense? So right here, the f is 2x plus 1. What that means is you're putting this inside that x. So the value of x is not just a single number, but the value of x is the whole equation. So I will be changing 2 times in pink. I'm trying to change the color. X squared minus 4x plus 2. And then back to plus 1. Okay, let's analyze that. Do you guys understand what that means? We're putting the function g inside the function f. Okay, and from there, we will just solve it. That would then be 2. I'm going to distribute the 2. 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8x. 2 times 2, that is a 4. Copy the 1. That is then 2x squared minus 8x plus 5. So our answer is 2x squared minus 8x plus 5. So f of g of x. You're putting g of x into the f. Okay? The other one, though, is the reverse to it. It's g of f of x. So we're putting f of x inside the g. Let's see if it's harder or easier. We're putting the f of x, so g of pink, 2x plus 1. So we're putting the f of x inside the g of x. I will repeat that. G of f of x, meaning because this is the inside function, you're putting this function inside this function, the g. So what is the formula for g function? It's x squared minus 4x plus 2. Do you guys see this x right here and this x? I'll repeat that. You see this x and this x? Both of these will change into 2x plus 1. So I'm going to plug that in over here. And at the same time, I'm going to plug that in over there. Does that make sense? Let's start. So it would now look like 2x plus 1. Ooh, pink. It would now look like 2x plus 1. and of course squared, minus a 4, putting 2x plus 1 in there, plus 2. Okay, what do you guys think? It's just not that crazy, hopefully. So all the x's that I saw, all the x's, I changed them to 2x plus 1 because I plugged in 2x plus 1. Okay. Now, when you say 2x plus 1 squared, does that mean 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1? So I will be doing, let me just put it there. 2x plus 1 times 2x plus 1 minus, I can combine that, 8x minus 4 plus 2. Right? I distributed negative 4 to both 2x and 1. That's how I got negative 8x minus 4. Okay, and I think you guys know how to solve that. Of course, that's a rainbow. So this is 4x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 1 minus 8x. And I can combine this one already. That is negative 2. Then I can combine like terms. 4x squared, combining 2x plus 2x minus 8x, that is a 4x, combining 1 and a negative 2, that's a negative 1. So our final answer is 4x squared minus 4x minus 1. I know it's a lot of work, but I'm hoping that after you see these examples, you'll be like, okay, this is not that bad. If you have any questions, any concerns, or anything that you need help with, please let me know and do not hesitate to ask me those questions, okay? And if you need, I know I only went over 2 examples. If you need an additional example, I have that one over here also on the top of your packet. So you can take a look at how it's done. And it should just be the same. And common mistake with this problem is this part right here. Let me make it bigger. You know how I have a 2x plus 1 squared? Common mistake with kids is they just do 2x squared and then 1 squared. But remember that it's not like that because you're supposed to FOIL it. You're supposed to actually multiply 2x plus 1 times another 2x plus 1. And that's why we have to do FOIL or we have to distribute that. Okay? Thank you guys for listening and thank you for your patience. I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you.